Well, hello and welcome back to another exciting evening of racing here at Syndicate Motorsport. My name is Pirate Lazebeam and I'll be doing the commentary for today's stream. And I'd like to welcome you all to the inaugural round, opening round of our new league, the LMP2 League, kicking off 2026. The first of the Saturday leagues we've been planning for this year. And we did the pre-season pre-Christmas and let everyone calm down over the Christmas period. We kick off with our first round here at Fuji today, and just got our camera parked up here alongside the start-finish straight, enjoying the sounds of LMP2 screaming past. Should be a pretty interesting race today. Fuji's always a race that delivers interesting racing, and particularly with this being a single class series where everyone is in the same LMP2 class but also the same car. It's the Orica. Should be pretty even Stevens racing. It will come down to driver skill and setup, and that always makes things pretty exciting here, so no need to worry about balance of performance and so on. We decided to keep things pretty simple for this one. So looking ahead to the season, we have completed the pre-season, which is held at Bahrain, and then we're going into round one, which is Fuji, and then in total we have 8 rounds, with round 1 being Fuji, round 2 being Sebring, which is always a bit of a mixed reaction to that track, a bit of a Marmite track. You either love it or you hate it. We've got Daytona for round 3, Portimao for round 4, Bar bringing up round 5, Le Mans for round 6 because of course, and Silverstone round 7, that'll be a penultimate round, and then finishing things up at Yas Marina. Now, slightly different to some of the previous races that we've done, or leagues that we've done, we've dropped the 2 20-minute race format, given that we wanted to have a little bit more of a nod towards endurance racing. And whilst this isn't a fully endurance-orientated season, we are going with 60-minute races, which should introduce enough opportunities for things like pit stops and so on. So looking forward to that. We have increased, I believe, just double checking exactly by how much, but I believe fuel and tyre wear is increased. So fuel rate is 260%, tyre wear is 350%. So the 60-minute race is in theory 3 hours if you're looking at it from a tyre and fuel perspective, and that should mean that there is a need to come in and do some pit stops. I don't believe there's a minimum pit stop amount enforced. I'm just double checking that again. No, but you will need to pit. Basically, it's kind of like self-enforced by virtue of the settings which have been applied, and that will mean that we should have a bit of a dynamic that we don't normally have in our leagues, which is the pit stops and so on, and that will introduce a new strategy, different fuel consumption rates, tyre strategies, etc. It's going to be very very interesting having that extra element coming into play. And then there is a little bit of variation in the weather, although for today's race it's forecasted to be generally just a few clouds in the sky, with the race kind of heating up a little bit temperature-wise as we go on, with the last two-thirds of the race having a slightly higher road temperature expected of around 27 degrees, which shouldn't have too much of an impact on the race, but will add a little bit of variation from a kind of a weather point of view. So we've got 3 minutes left on the qualifying session, then we'll have a few moments before we get into the one known race. So let's take a quick look through some of the liveries. We've got Andrew here running what is, I can only imagine, a Mercedes Sauber kind of inspired livery here with the Group C kind of colour scheme here, very nicely executed indeed. We've got Forrest McCormack here with the hotel-themed livery that he and his teammate Akashik will be running for the season. Slightly different variation on the scheme this time. Eric Axelson in the Honda livery here. He's teamed up with Viles this season, so Viles I know had a custom livery hooked up for him, and his teammate Eric here is running that as well. Akashik, the other Team Amarath member here, so joined with Forrest McCormack in their livery here. We've got Sawa, which is running the Rebellion livery. And then we've got Viles in the other Honda livery. Binding, who's teammates with Andrew, again running in the Sauber-inspired livery here as well. And then we've got Neo and Erdi, and they are running in this very exotic livery cooked up by Zaddy, I believe, and he's poured his life and soul into this one. It looks absolutely incredible. So I think Zaddy does liveries as commissions. So if you're looking for a livery to be made, then you know, drop something in chat so we can get you in touch with Zaddy. But yeah, very impressive livery from Zaddy here. Love the detail. Obviously spent a lot of time on this one. Erdi is the teammate there, and he's running the other version of that in the number 567. Then we've got Blazakon in the Alpine blue and grey livery. We've got Turbo in the Goodyear BRM. Shaq in the Global Medical. And Alucard in the other Goodyear livery, running the number 25 number. So yeah, pretty good showing in terms of liveries. Really pleased to see everyone putting their efforts into pulling those together. At the moment though, with 45 seconds left on the clock, it looks like Andrew is going to be leading the pack with a 1:27.361. We've got Forrest McCormack in P2 with a 1:27.404. Eric Axelson is going to be in third place by the looks of it with a 1:27.535, and then Akashik also joining, you know, Forrest McCormack in the top 5 here, 1:28.064. So pretty tight timings there. We've got 1:28 all the way down to P7, and that gives us a pretty good spread for the first 7 positions. The other drivers yet to set a time, but we'll see how those slot in later on as the session comes to an end. Hello Adrian, welcome to chat. Your coaching for Andrew has definitely paid off. In terms of the championship overall, we have 26 entrants for the league, although we don't have everyone here for the first round. We do have a good 13 on the grid, so it should be a good race today. Yeah, I'm good, Adrian. How are you doing? I've eaten a bit too much dinner. I'm going to try my best not to fall asleep during the commentary. But I'm sure the racing will be far too exciting for me to do that. Have you also been training Neo? Or maybe Neo's just sandbagging? So, qualifying session has concluded. I think it's just Akashik out on the track at the moment, and Alucard. You've been trying to keep a diet after New Year's. Well, don't come to my house, it will not work here. So Akashik returning to the pit box. And there we have it, qualifying session has concluded. We'll be getting on with the first race in a few minutes, and just to recap, it is a 60-minute race with accelerated tyre and fuel wear. That should necessitate some pit stops, so it'll be interesting to see how people go with the fuel and tyre strategies. But looking forward to this one. Fuji's always a good one to start with. Never a track I can quite nail myself, to be honest. I've always found that final sector a little bit of a nightmare to learn, and I don't think despite trying many times, I haven't quite got the hang of it. Hey Evals, good to see you. Your livery is looking very nice, I might say. Here's Viles' Honda inspired AlphaTauri. Yeah, Sector 3 at Fuji is a complete mystery. I've never quite managed to work out how to do it. Seems like Andrew and Forrest and Eric have found a way though. None of the cameras particularly playing ball here. Yeah, lots of new drivers, so hopefully turn 1 goes well. It's always a little bit of a guessing game with the drivers I do know. But I will reserve the right to do a session restart. Hopefully we don't need to use that at all, but I will. I'll be there just in case. So that is generally a bit of a rule of thumb, rather than a hard and fast set of criteria here. But if there's a kind of a multi-car pileup, typically around 3 or more cars in the first lap of significance, then I might red flag the race and have it restarted. But generally I attempt to avoid doing that if at all possible. Good luck, Miles. They've got 1 minute and 15 seconds to go, everyone. Certainly a different kettle of fish with the LMP2s to our last season, which was a BTCC. And whilst the racing there was very fun, we didn't quite have the numbers we were looking for, whereas LMP2 seemed to have drawn in a slightly larger crowd. Seconds. So lights are up, engines are revving. And away we go, round 1 of the new LMP2 League is underway, and it's Forrest McCormack off the line very early. Looks like Andrew's got bogged down and has been overtaken quite rapidly by a couple of cars. He's going into P1 in P2. But that's not the start that Andrew was looking for at all. He's down to P3 already with Forrest McCormack and Eric Axelsen getting through. In the background, it looks like we've had a bit of a contact between 2 of the back markers, but no issue there for a restart. Forrest McCormack getting away early at the moment. See if I can get a slightly camera to use here. But it's Forrest McCormack, Eric Axelsen, Andrew just behind Eric at the moment. And they're going side by side as they come down to the right-hander through the little chicane. Eric and his teammate Viles currently running in P3 and 4 with Akashik in 5th place. It's Neo and Binding in P6 and 7 respectively. Neo going slightly off on that corner, very tricky that one to judge that, and then into the final corner. Looks like he's locked up the brakes there and had a bit of a change of heart, allowing Binding to sneak through there. And now it's Binding side by side with Neo. Be a race down to T1 for Binding here. And Binding uses the opportunity to sneak down the inside there, manages to defend his line. Neo slips back down to P7 with Sarwar and Shaq starting to edge up a little bit further behind. Binding running quite wide there into the entry there, judged a little bit too late. In Project Cars 2 there used to be a bollard there which you could hit, and that would cause early aero damage, which is always the last thing you needed. Neo is still hanging on here, just 0.3 of a second behind Binding, and might have an opportunity as they run down to the chicane section to catch up a little bit. Bit of a puff of smoke from all drivers there as their wheels struggle. And into Sector 3 we go, the trickiest part of this track. And let's see what Neo can do from the onboard point of view. Definitely losing quite a bit of time compared to Binding there. This final corner entry is always a mystery to me, but looks like Neo's through, gets a pretty good ball onto the throttle there, but he's got Sawa now right behind, and only 0.4 of a second. Actually that's from Sawa's point of view, so there's Neo's point of view. You can see in the rear view mirror there's Sawa thinking about a little move into T1, but ultimately too far back at that point. He's going to have to tuck in behind Neo for a little bit longer and just wait for his opportunity to pounce. Still 0.4, 0.5 of a second between these two. It looks like Neo's opened up a little bit more of a gap here, got a bit more breathing room, about 1 second between the two of them though, but that has just been shaved right down to 0.5 again as Neo lost quite a bit of time there in the chicane section. Let's see what they can do through this final sector. On the rear view you can see just how far Sawa is behind, and Neo seems to have caught a little bit too much curb there. That's rotated the car and he's lost traction. And now he's lost a position there to Sawa as they come through the final corner onto the back straight, or the start-finish straight. It's Neo down to P8. Let's go a little bit further up the grid to P4, where Viles is running in P4 with Akashik only half a second behind, and that does mean Akashik is in a pretty good spot here to try and find a way closer behind. Viles running slightly wide there, but Akashik joins him in that, and actually Akashik's slipping back now to about 1 second. Ooh, it looks like Neo is catching up on Sawa again. Maybe there's an opportunity here for him to catch up. Let's go on board. Just see how much speed these cars are capable of, and the amount of downforce they bring to the corners. Very different driving style and racing to BTCC. See what Neo's got in the final sector here. This is where it kind of all counts, because very easy for a driver to make a mistake here. You can see Sawa just running a little bit over the curbs there. Neo seems to be struggling though on these corners. He's losing traction. The car's slightly over-rotated, and I think he's just suffering with a little bit of a lack of confidence potentially in these couple of sectors there. It's a little bit hard to judge them, but he remains 0.9 of a second behind. Let's go to the front of the grid though, where we've got Forrest McCormack in P1 and Andrew back into the fight here with a 0.4 of a second gap behind Forrest, and there might be an opportunity for these two to have a little bit of a battle on this lap. Let's see who comes out on top. As we know, Forrest McCormack's a very fast driver, but so is Andrew, and from the rear view you can see Andrew is definitely not going to be giving Forrest McCormack any breathing space here. Yeah, Adrian, I wonder if Neo's just got a slightly different setup, or maybe they're just not used to running with the level of fuel that they're running on right now. But they definitely seem to be struggling, as you say. Taking a quick little look here at the live timing board, and everyone's on medium compound tyres. There's no difference in compound here, which might be explaining some of the variations in lap time. But if they've, you know, for example, if they've been qualifying or practicing on one level of fuel and they've got race fuel now, it could be shaking things up a little bit. So Andrew still 0.4 of a second behind Forrest McCormack, going to be getting a little bit of slipstream as they run down the start-finish straight here. But with 8 minutes of racing already completed, the battles are only just getting started, I would say. Both drivers managing to keep it on the track there. That's a common place for drivers to run slightly wide. Andrew taking a slightly tighter line on the inside through that corner there, and that's actually allowed him to get up to 0.3 of a second behind Forrest McCormack. That will put him in a pretty strong position here, running down to this braking zone as they head down to that tight right-hander at the entry to Sector 3, but Forrest McCormack is not giving anything away at this stage. So, Forrest in a slightly more precarious situation right now. Well, he was. I was about to say that Andrew was within 0.3 of a second coming out the final corner there. Did have a little bit of a wobble there, but he is back to that 0.3 gap. And if we go on board with Andrew now, you can see that he is struggling to actually gain with the toe. It's starting to kick in right now as they come under the DHL sign, but that is rather late. He's dummied Forrest and tries to go around the outside. But there's no switchback opportunity for Andrew here, as Forrest does a great job of defending there through the first corner. Holds his line and his nerve, and that stops Andrew from getting any further past. Yeah, definitely could be a setup difference here, Adrian. It does seem that Forrest has got slightly better top end, and maybe Andrew's got a little bit more in the corners. But you didn't see that slipstream kicking in on the straight there for quite a while for Andrew, so you can see that he is actually pressurising Forrest in the corners here, which is going to be interesting to see which tactic actually plays out better. Andrew really piling on the pressure now. This will be potentially damaging for the long run though, because these two are going to be really punishing their brakes in their tyres. They're not really going to have the opportunity to coast or protect fuel or tyre consumption at this stage, and it's quite early days. We know the accelerated tyre and fuel wear, this may necessitate an earlier pit stop than these two are potentially planning, but it does look like Andrew's strategy here is to get ahead early and then kind of set the pace for the race. 0.3 of a second coming out of the final corner for Andrew there as he piles down the start-finish straight here. This time slipstream a little bit earlier, playing into his advantage. Is he going to try and go left again? Forrest is tucking it right to the wall, not going to leave any gap there for Andrew. And then Forrest kind of pushes Andrew left to try and preserve as much entry speed. A little bit of a tap there, but Andrew has played his cards right and is now through. I imagine now you're going to see Andrew open up a little bit of a gap to Forrest McCormack here. You can see how much he was kind of pressurising Forrest McCormack in the last couple of laps there. He was definitely gaining time where Forrest McCormack wasn't. Now he's in front. He should open a gap pretty easily, I would say. And then he can kind of relax and unwind a little bit. So let's see if Forrest McCormack can do anything about this though before he gets too far ahead. Ooh, but there's Forrest McCormack trying his best to get in early there with a potential comeback, but he has actually made contact with Andrew, and that might mean that one of these two drivers has damage, if not both. Meanwhile, the bit that we haven't really been paying attention to is what's happening in P3, because Andrew and Forrest battling is making things a little bit easier for Eric. And there's Forrest trying to get through there, but Andrew's actually spun in the final corner, and that's put him down to P4 with Viles up to P3. So not great news for Andrew though. I don't think that was driven by contact. I think he just slightly overdrove the car there onto the curb. So let's see what Andrew's got in store for us. Meanwhile, Forrest McCormack remains in P1. That's where they were at the beginning, and they've kind of held off. Come back from a potential loss there to Andrew to remain back in the lead. Eric Axelsen only a second behind now. And let's go back down to P4 where we've got Andrew and Akashik. With Andrew closing in on Viles just a touch here, and Akashik getting a little bit closer to Andrew himself. So Andrew in a little bit of a precarious situation here. Might end up sandwiched between these two cars and having to keep an eye on the rear view mirror and what's happening in front of him. On board with Andrew here as he comes through the final corner. He's absolutely pushing the car to the right hand side as much as possible, but perhaps a little bit UF through there, through the final corner. Apex is very late. Again, different approaches to that final corner. With Andrew not really gaining or losing, particularly to Viles as a result of that. Remains 0.8 of a second behind Viles, but it's Akashik who's lost out here. He's 1.4 seconds behind Andrew, and needs to kind of pick up the pace a little bit if he wants to get into the contention here. About 15 minutes of race time is past now. Forrest McCormack remains in the lead as he just rounds up to the end of lap 9. And Eric not gaining on Forrest McCormack, which is interesting because Eric is usually right up there battling with the pole position. But you can see Andrew here just closing in on Viles now, 0.5 of a second between these two, and Viles is just coming up past one of the back markers. That looks like it could be Blazicon. And Blazicon will need to be... check that is Blazicon. No, it's not. I stand corrected. It's Turbo. He's going to need to be mindful of blue flags. And he's got a little bit of a traffic jam behind him in the shape of Andrew and Akashik. And a little bit of a cautious exit to the final corner, but he's on the straight now. That should allow Andrew and Akashik to get through safely. And we've got Blazicon spinning and Alucard just coming into the pits. I say that, but yeah, no, he's staying into the pits. I thought he was going to stay out for a little bit longer there, but Andrew now side by side with Akashik on the run down to T1. Akashik trying to go down the inside, and he might be making this move stick. A little bit of a bump between the two of them there, but it's Andrew and Akashik coming through sector 2 now, side by side. Andrew muscling his way through there a little bit, but manages to do so pretty cleanly, and that puts Akashik back down to P5 with Andrew up to P4. So Akashik there in the background, 0.4 of a second behind into the final sector. So remember that with the accelerated tyre wear and fuel consumption, they've effectively been racing for 45 minutes by this point. So it'll be interesting to see when the first pits begin, but the pit window I think opened at 15 minutes, so pit window is technically open already. And be interesting to see whether we have any planned pit stops coming up. Alucard's in the pits currently, but I don't believe that was a scheduled stop. Akashik has got binding though on his tail, and Akashik is now split between the two silver and neon yellow cars, the Binding and Andrew. Rear view camera from Akashik's point of view here, and you can see Binding getting a little bit closer. Don't forget guys, you can use your channel points to use some of the custom cameras as well. If you want to get the top down helicopter camera, then feel free to fire that off. I've made sure that I'm in the same type of car as the drivers so that the camera should work correctly. Unfortunately, when I'm in the A-team van for the commentary vehicle, it does cause a little bit of a kind of skew referee with the cameras. So Shaq and Turbo in the pits. There's Blazicon. And struggling a little bit there. Again, causing a little bit of a delay here for some of the faster drivers. They get off the track, so hopefully that's not caused too much of a delay here for Akshik and Binding. And the final corner they go. Akshik onto the home stretch. And most of our drivers getting a little bit more spread out now. Looks like Neo and Erdi are struggling quite a bit though. They're 50 seconds behind P7 and Erdi's 21 seconds behind Neo. So both teammates there struggling a little bit. Meanwhile, Forrest and Cormac out in front of this race, managing to control things quite nicely from the front. Wonder how his tyres are holding up now and what the fuel consumption is looking like. It looks like we've got Turbo just leaving the pit lane. Blazicon's in the pit still. Turbo's out there and struggling a little bit with car control. Hopefully they get into the swing of things. Yeah, Andrew might be able to use the pit stops to his advantage. Depends how they're doing in terms of damage and wear. Oh, the pits of hell. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. That probably would have done a little bit of a number on his tyres. So once he can get those back under control, that might play back into his favour. Hey, the clock, welcome. And Roper Sealer, welcome to you as well. We're just 20 minutes through our 60-minute race here at Fuji, and at the moment Forrest McCormack is leading the race with a 1.8 second gap to Eric Axelson, who we're viewing right now. We've got Viles in P3, Andrew in P4 and Akshik in P5. As far as the cars are concerned, they've been racing for an hour now, so with the accelerated tyre and fuel wear. Ah, well, we're looking forward to seeing you on track for the future rounds, Clock. Get a bit of a flavour for your competition here at least today. So Eric running pretty even here. Last lap was a 1:28.610. Their best is a 1:28.325. So they are pretty much running along their best lap time. Forrest McCormack did a 1:28.677 last lap and a 1:28.119, which is probably the best in the race so far. But you can see that they're slightly slower than their best, whereas Eric is slightly up on their time. But Eric does have a 1.2 second gap to fill, and actually, it looks like Forrest McCormack's coming up to Erdi or Neo. Let's take a look at the onboard view and see how things go. He's going to have to take a bit of an evasive manoeuvre there to get past as they enter Sector 3. But so far, Eric and Forrest McCormack through there without too many issues. Eric actually coming out slightly on top there with a 0.8 second gap. And there's Forrest. Oh, I thought he was spinning there. He was sliding the way through there, but Eric is now only 0.6 of a second behind, so wonder if we're seeing a bit of tyre degradation for Forrest McCormack or not. Eric, on the other hand, has shaved off about 0.7 of a second from where they were at the beginning of last lap, so possibly an opportunity here for Eric to eat into this lead that Forrest McCormack has, and as you saw there with a potential bit of over-rotation from Forrest McCormack, he might be struggling a little bit. Last lap time for Forrest McCormack was a 1:29.261, so as I suspected, definitely off the time, and Eric on the other hand was on a 1:28.423, so actually both were slower, but Eric was quicker. Okay, well, let's get a bit of camera time to Shaq in a second. But here's Shaq, currently running in P10. Just coming onto the start-finish straight here. They're running 40 seconds behind Erdy at the moment, but they've got a good 1.4 lap gap to Turbo, so pretty safe in P10. I think that's where the points start as well, so not a bad spot to be in. So Andrew's in the pit lane, and I can't imagine that was planned at this stage in the race, though potentially it actually is almost half race distance, so that might make sense. We'll take a quick look at the pit stops. Yeah, Andrew's the first one, probably to a planned one. Shaq's done 1 pit stop, Turbo's done 2, Alucard's done 3. I imagine Andrew was the first one to do a pit stop, which is potentially strategic. Let's see whether he can undercut anyone else as an outcome from that. Forrest McCormack, let's see whether he comes into the pits after the conclusion of this lap. Average lap time at Fuji, that's a good question. I think 1:27s were the best for qualifying time. 1:28 to 1:29 was pretty much the benchmark, I would have said. So 1:28, there or thereabouts. Again, that would be on qualifying fuel. These guys are starting to run through their fuel reserve, so the car will be getting a bit lighter. On the other hand, the tyres will be getting a little less fresh, so that will start to bit of a trade-off. Let's see what Forrest McCormack does at the end of this lap, though. He's just coming through the final sector, up to the final corner now. See if he does a pit stop this lap or not. Looks like he's not going to be pitting. And neither is Eric. Andrew's not lapped by what I can see. So Neo's in the pits. Eric is 0.8 of a second behind Forrest and piling on the pressure still. Rear view from Forrest's car. And, you can see the ever-present Eric edging a little bit closer. Ooh, Akashik has just spun out there, dropped down 2 positions. He had Binding and Sawa quite close behind. Let's go to Binding though. So Binding has just wrangled their way up to P4. I think they were just dealing with the back marker there. And now Sawa is just 0.4 of a second behind Binding as they come up to the chicane. Eric getting quite close to Forrest McCormack now. And now, of course, as is always the case, I've got 2 battles to watch. Does look like Binding's safer now. Let's go back to these 2 at the front and let's see what happens. 0.4 of a second isn't a bad place to be for Eric as they start the next lap. Coming through the first sector. High-speed corners here, which might play to Eric's favour, depending on setup. Does seem to be keeping pace with the Irishman. But here's Sawa, and Bindings just lost it in the first corner a little bit. Sawa, I think, is leaving him to stay in position, so there might have been a slight contact there, but Sawa's done the gentlemanly thing and allowed him to hold on to that position. Back to the front we go. Forrest McCormack, only 0.3 of a second ahead of Eric now, and Eric starting to undoubtedly wear through Forrest McCormack's energy levels as he has to keep defending, or keep an eye on Eric's advances here. They come through the final sector. Looks like Eric is very much in attack mode. The trick here, of course, is to get a good exit, because if you don't get a solid exit, you can't capitalise on the slipstream down the main straight, and you can see Eric here struggling to gain any ground really, despite the very long straight. Yeah, I unfortunately missed the pre-season, so I didn't get to catch all the exciting action there, but it does look like Eric is keeping the pressure on here. Again, Sawa and Binding in a similar battle further down in P4. Very good, Adrian. Thank you for the assist. And Forrest is very much having to keep an eye on the rearview mirror here. Eric is definitely not giving up anytime soon, and it's going to be actually a question of who's going to pit first potentially. I wonder if we'll see an undercut manoeuvre from Eric, or whether Forrest is going to try and stay out for as long as possible. But we're approaching half race distance now, so the cars have, as far as they're concerned, been driving for quite some time. Good hour and a half now. 52 minutes, wow. Maybe Forrest has more energy and patience than I thought. But Eric is definitely going to be a constant fixture here, I think. On board with Eric and just get a sense of the action from his point of view. It's tantalisingly close to the rear end of Forrest McCormack's car here, but with another 29 minutes and 40 seconds to go, there is a lot of work to be done potentially. Both drivers struggling a little bit there through that tricky sector. Yeah, I think you put Forrest McCormack in a high downforce car and he's happy as Larry. Eric slipping slightly further back, 0.8 of a second. Let's take a look at Binding and Sawa, who are... looks like they're just in Sector 3. And almost a carbon copy of the battle at the front. Although Binding is coming into the pits. And that allows Sawa to hop on up to P4. I think Andrew will be next up there, because Binding will be in the pits for a little bit of time, I would have thought. But Binding's in for what I assume is fuel and tyres. And we've also got Alucard in the pits as well. All what seems like a quite a few pit stops, rally card. Anyway, back to the front. Looks like we are getting a little bit of a transition to the later stages of this race. Being slightly darker, or just the clouds rolling over. So Andrew's up to P5 now, with Binding dropping down to P6. Of course, Andrew's already pitted, so shouldn't need to pit again if he's just doing a one-stop strategy. So in terms of pit stops, we've had Andrew Binding, Akashik has completed his, we had Neo, Shaq, Turbo, Alucard. The drivers yet to pit are Forrest McCormack, Eric, Miles and Sawa, and Erdy of course. So let's see what Forrest McCormack does, or whether it's going to be Eric who comes in and pits first. Looks like Shaq. So Forrest staying out, as does Eric. Eric's only 0.4 of a second behind. No, tyre wear is actually set to just double check the number. Tyre wear is 350%, so your rate's 260. So they will be wearing through those tyres quite quickly. And oh, here comes Eric with the attack. He's going through sector 2 side by side with Forrest McCormack. He's slightly behind, but there was an opportunity there for Eric. That's going to put the adrenaline levels up for Forrest McCormack. But, 25 minutes left to go. It looks like Forrest and Eric are going to be pitting around the same time and quite late in this race. That might allow the likes of Viles and Andrew to catch up. Andrew's got a minute, well, about 60 seconds or so in total to catch up. So the pit stop is going to do him a lot of favours here, and I think Eric's coming in now. Will Forrest follow him? Yes, he will. I think he saw Eric aiming for the pit lane and decided to stay. And Eric, it wasn't a trick, he's coming in as well. So now let's see what happens to Viles. Viles is staying out. And we've got 20 minutes left to go. And Viles has yet to pit. So I imagine Viles is going to pit on the next lap, but we'll see. He's on 129s for his last lap, which is a good second or so off his pace. So if he's losing about a second a lap at the moment, he will seriously need to consider when he wants to pit. Let's have a look though. Yeah, so Eric is further up the pit lane. Forrest McCormack's a little bit further back. Let's see who comes up first, because they might have slightly different fuel amounts going in. That might change who comes out of this first. And there's Forrest. And Eric not too far behind, but actually a significant amount compared to where they were. Looks like there's going to be at least a couple of seconds difference in the pit stops here. So Eric's got a little bit of work to do to catch up with Forrest and undo that pit stop. That might be a little bit of a ploy from Forrest McCormack to gain a few seconds there, but he's managed to bag himself about 5.5 seconds, which is pretty good for the amount of time they've got left on this race. Yeah, it's definitely possible, Adrian, but Andrew's only 8 seconds behind now, and if he doesn't have to pit again, then he should be okay. Last lap for Andrew. Take a look. It was on 28.6. So he is a second quicker than Viles at this point. Here's Shaq in P10 still. And we've got 22 minutes left to go. Does look like Andrew hasn't gained significantly on Eric yet. Still 8.3 seconds between those two. You can see him further down the track there. Andrew's lap time is 1:28.61, so he's pretty consistent in that 1:28.6 range. Eric shaved off about a second on Forrest McCormack already, so Eric might be on a bit of a charge here, but does still have 4.5 seconds to go. Yeah, so Viles is still out. 1:29.4 is now 1:29.2. Doing a good job of looking after his tyres, if that was his plan. But let's see whether he can bring this home. Well, let's do the math. If he doesn't pit at all, there's 20 minutes left in the race. The lap times are 1.5 minutes, so he is going to do, what, 15 more laps? Oh, stand corrected. A few more laps. I've got my brain fart there entirely. He's losing a second a lap to the competitors, so just basically work out how many laps he's got left to do. And then take a second off that, and that will be what he will lose. It'll be more like 13 laps. So basically, if he loses 13 seconds for the next period of time, but I think the lap... Here it comes, yeah, so the pit stop's coming now. He isn't planning to stay out. But yeah, he would have had to stay out for the remaining 20 minutes of the race, losing a second a lap. And there would have been 13 laps, so he would have lost 13 seconds of time to Forrest McCormack. But remember that the tyre wear is 350%, so that 20 minutes is equivalent to another whole hour of the car, hour and a bit of the car driving. And Forrest McCormack now has an opportunity to overtake Viles. He's just come out through the last corner. And we'll be getting alongside very shortly. Let's see what happens to Viles. So he is now P2. There's Eric P3. So Viles comes out in P3. Will he get out ahead of Andrew? I suspect he will not. So he'll be down to P4. There's Andrew. There we go. So there was Andrew. And now Viles is P4. Fresh tyres though, and pretty close behind Andrew, so definitely an opportunity to finish with a podium here. Yeah, I suspect Viles will be able to eat into this 3-second gap to Andrew in relatively short order. blue interior. Ooh, that's not helpful. Val's doing a good job of avoiding contact there. That won't be helping his charge up behind Andrew. Minutes and 20 seconds left in the race. 4 seconds separating Vals and Andrew. Let's see what Vals can do in a bit of clear air though. So sitting on the front quarter of Vals' car, let's watch him do the lap here. What are you talking about? Vals doesn't swear, he's a true gentleman. He's not entirely on the track, however, and he's losing time to Andrew, because Andrew's now a second ahead of where he was a few minutes ago. What we do have, though, is Binding in P6 being caught by a certain Akashik. See what Akashik can do here. 0.6 of a second separating these two. They've both already pitted. I imagine they're not going to be doing any more pits, but go for an onboard shot with Akashik here. Beautiful blue sky here with a few clouds dotted around at Fuji. So tempting to put your foot down there, but you just have to kind of let the car do the turn off throttle, time everything just right, otherwise you lose out quite a lot of time here. And Akashik's lost out a few tenths there to Binding, so Binding's definitely got that last sector a little bit more nailed than Akashik does. Akashik off track there again, struggling a little bit perhaps at the last stage of this race. He's got 15 more minutes to go. Andrew in P3 currently. Last lap was a 1:28.097, so too far off his best lap time actually. And looks like he's got the best lap, second best lap to Eric here. Eric's starting to get a little bit closer to Forrest. Remember that when these two came out of the pits, it was a 5.5 second gap between Eric and Forrest. Now that's less than a second. So it just goes to show how much pace Eric is bringing here, even if that isn't entirely the track. Hey Red, welcome to the battle for the lead. Which is on board here with Eric as he tries to hunt down Forrest McCormack. 0.7 of a second separating these two in the final sector. And there's only 13 minutes and a few seconds left to go. Red's on a 5-streak stream. I just said that backwards, didn't I? 5-stream streak. So Eric out the gate at the last corner there with a 0.5 second gap to Forrest McCormack. Let's see what the slipstream situation is looking like. It's not massively helping at the moment. Even 0.5 of a second seems a bit too far for these cars. Unless Forrest has a slightly lower downforce setup. that might mean that Eric can catch up a little bit in these faster corners. He does seem to gain a little bit of an advantage here in Sector 2. I think Eric's in full-on attack mode right now. There's a back marker ahead which might shake things up a little bit. There's two back markers. We have seen a couple of issues with blue flags in the race up until now, so let's see what this does to the battle for the lead here. Forrest is carefully navigating through, and there's a... thought that was going to be a bit of a dodgy rejoin there, but thankfully not. Let's see if they can overtake cleanly on the start finish straight here. Eric out 0.4 of a second behind Forrest McCormack. Forrest is gaining a little bit of slipstream there, but doesn't manage to make that work. Eric staying out to the left. On 28.355 for Eric on the last lap there. He's now getting awfully close. He does better in Sector 2. That's where it's time to shine. Let's see what he's got to deliver here. 0.4 of a second. Not sure how much of a challenge the close following in these cars does with the aero and the dirty air, but you can get a good run down to the right-hander here. He might force Forrest McCormack to just lose a little bit more time. We come down to the braking zone. Ooh, Eric's overdone it slightly, I think. Will he recover though? So, Eric pushing hard, and with hard pushing comes consequences when it goes wrong. It does look like Eric is regaining some composure here, gets that gap back down to almost 0.7 of a second. Not quite where he wants to be with the 0.4, but he does get a pretty good exit on the final corner, and slipstream again will help him edge a little bit closer to Forrest. Well spotted, Adrian. So yeah, Akshik might be in with a shot here. Just 10 minutes left to go. His binding just coming through the final sector by the looks of it. A bit more work for Akshik to do here. Back to the front, we've got Forrest McCormack still in the lead, with Eric just a mere few milliseconds behind, and going to be a pretty nail-biting 9.5 minutes at the end of this race. But either way, I think we've got our podium holders, unless Andrew has a mistake again and allows Files to catch up. Eric is not quite getting back to that 0.4 second gap that he was at before, but Akashik is, on the other hand. Akashik's 0.3 of a second behind, as is Eric though, so again, two battles unfolding at the same time. It's very difficult to follow them both. Actually using the full width of the track there to his advantage. Let's see what he can do, but Binding just does seem to get through this last sector a bit quicker than Akshik can. Let's go back to the front where Eric was within 0.4 of a second, but Forrest just does seem to be edging Eric out in all the key areas. Just 7.5 minutes, or 7 minutes 55 seconds, sorry, to go. Not a huge amount of time. We're into the last few laps now. all the major pit stops are out of the way, so not expecting any last minute pit stop issues to cloud how things go, but ooh, there's Binding and Akshik. 0.2 of a second, and here's Akshik's chance to push. Binding must be feeling it in the cockpit right now, because Akshik is pushing really hard. Akshik tries to go around the outside. Will he cut back on the inside? Attempts to, but nowhere to go. Ooh, and there's a bit of a punt, and Akshik's turned Binding around, unfortunately. I'll just say it now, I'm glad Binding won't be able to yell about this in the interview, because I'm just interviewing the podium holders. Anyway, back to Forrest and Eric. That's very unfortunate for Binding, and I'm sure Akshik will get an earful for that one. Interesting to see if that results in a penalty ticket or not. Indeed, Red, indeed. So, 6.5 minutes left to go. 2 drivers fighting for the podium. 0.5 of a second in it at the moment, and anyone's guess as to how this plays out. I think Eric has really got to pick his moment, because a mistake at this stage would be potentially quite costly for what would be otherwise a solid P2 finish. Looks like we've got Neo or Erdi up ahead, finding a little bit of slipstream, but it's Eric, 0.3 of a second behind as they head down to the first corner. Not sure, Adrian, we'll have to review, but oh, Eric trying to go around the outside there. Doubles back to the right hand side as he tries to find a way through into sector 2. And it's all going off here as we enter the last 5 minutes of this race. Eric giving it absolutely everything he's got here to try and get past the Great Wall of Forrest McCormack, but so far unable to make that move stick. Ooh, and Eric attempts to avoid contact with the rear end of Forrest McCormack, and that's cost him dearly. 3+ seconds lost there as he tries to avoid contact. That almost took Forrest McCormack out of the race as well, so very glad to see that didn't result in contact with Forrest. But let's go to P4, where it looks like Viles has had a little bit of a whoopsie-daisy earlier in the race, and that's allowed Sawa to get close by. Now side by side. I think Viles might just be cooked as he enters into the third sector and drops down to P5. Akshik's a good 28 seconds behind, but Binding's still relatively close behind Akshik at this stage. Binding is only 0.4 of a second behind Akshik at this stage and piling on some pressure. Let's see what they've got to show us in the last few minutes of this race. Akshik trying to throw Binding off a little bit there, but I don't imagine that's going to be doing a whole lot. Let's see if Binding has enough fuel to finish. Let's see if he's put a reminder on his wheel at all about putting enough fuel in the car. Can't see anything. is in the last league, Binding had on his steering wheel, remember to put race fuel in. I think strategy did play a little bit. Forrest and Eric were trying to guess when each other would pit, and ultimately it came down to Eric going for the pit lane first and Forrest deciding to follow him, so that did seem to be a little bit of a strategic move there. Andrew span early and then managed to recover, I think, using his pit strategy. Two minutes left to go. Okay, 0.6 of a second for Binding. Still trying his level best here to catch up with Akshik, but beginning to think they're a little bit short on time now. I imagine they did tyres and fuel red, but I'm not entirely sure we know for sure. Ooh, Binding there, a little bit off track. That's going to have cost him a tenth or two. So we're on to the last lap, and if we go to the front, you can see that Forrest and Axelson, or Forrest and Eric, are just coming around the last corner. And it'll be whether they cross the line. I don't think they're going to, so this could be... There it is, the last lap. It does look like it's going to be a pretty close finish, 0.5 of a second between these two. Eric shaving off 5 seconds between the pit stop and the end of the race there, so well done to Eric. Forrest McCormack picked up a very well-earned P1 there, with Andrew covering very well in this race to pick up a P3. I think fuel is client side, so I don't know if the server knows how much fuel you have. Well done to Andrew. Biles picks up a very, very well-deserved P4 there, with Sarwar giving him a good run for his money the entire way through the race there, picks up P5. Akashik coming in with a P6, so good news for Forrest McCormack and Akashik's team. Pretty similar standings, I imagine, between Akashik and Forrest's team compared to Andrew and Binding. P6 for Akashik, P7 for Binding. Neo grabs a P8. Erdy's in P9. And Shaq will be picking up P10. So we'll go ahead and start the interviews very quickly. Bring up the Brio back channel for 1 sec. So let's go ahead and bring in our race winner, which is Forrest McCormack. We'll bring him in first.
Hello.
Ah, well, hello, Mr. Pixel. How was your race today?
So sweaty.
I was going to say that's a pretty solid,
Right
pretty workout driving an LMP2 for 60 minutes. But congratulations! You must be all out of adrenaline by now.
It's a very fun race. Man, Eric is very good. It's a shame Andrew had his issues, but Eric kept me honest. He's so consistent, and he just has something in the second half that I don't like.
Yeah, do you know if you were running a different kind of setup? It seemed like on the main straight there wasn't really a huge amount of slipstream going on there, so I wondered if you had a slightly lower downforce amount which was offsetting his cornering ability. Do you think that played a role?
Well, I did have 20% on the rear wing, but I did notice in Bahrain in the preseason as well, like for whatever reason, the slipstream only really starts to hit inside 4/10.
Okay, yep.
So if like there's a very fine margin of like being in it or out of it, and like when it hits it, it's relatively strong. But if you're just a hair outside of it, you get nothing.
Right, okay,
So
that would
like
explain it then.
a couple of hundredths will gain you like 3 or 4 tenths at the end of the long straight if you get in it or not. It's very binary. It feels like.
Interesting. Okay, well, yes. I was wondering what was happening there because it didn't seem to be very strong, like compared to some other cars where it's really noticeable. As you say, you didn't really get anything until you got very close. So, yes, well, tell me about the pit stop at the end there, because I noticed that you came in pretty much.
Oh, no.
You pretty much like instantaneously. Right, I think Eric signaled he was coming in. I don't think you were going to come in, but then you decided to come in when he did. Was that pretty much how that played out?
Yeah, like I had intended to go a bit deeper into the pit window because you get a stronger tire offset and your car is lighter for longer. But Eric was definitely faster than me in the race by that point, and I figured the best defensive maneuver I can take is to eliminate any kind of undercuts or overcuts. So when I saw him coming in, because he declared his intention very early, so I
Yeah.
was able to respond to that. Made an absolute tit of myself stopping in the box, but fortunately Eric was very conservative on the pit entry, so it kind of cancelled things out, which I was very relieved by because I would have been embarrassed to lose like that.
So what happened there?
In
Did
a
you miss your pit
shitty display.
box?
I just braked a little bit too late and just overshot it slightly. Like there is a degree of leniency in it, but I just carried in way too much speed and overshot it too much, so I had to hit the reverse.
Okay. I was wondering
cancel out
why. I wondered if you were putting in more fuel, or whatever, because yeah, it definitely seemed to. Well, actually, you went out first. You came out
I
five
think
and
it's
a half
still
seconds before
gained
Eric.
2 seconds on Eric, all said and done. So I'm curious to know how much he fueled by because I don't feel like his entry would have explained the gap, considering that I overshot my marks. So I'm curious to ask him how much he fueled.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know that. But yeah, definitely when you both exited the pit lane, you were about 5.5 seconds ahead, and then he managed to close that to half a second as you came behind. So yeah, definitely didn't give you any breathing room this race at all.
Absolutely not.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you very much,
He's
Forrest.
very good.
Congratulations
Yeah,
again.
thank you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how things play out with you and Eric and Andrew throughout the season. But I'll bring in the other two, and I'll wish you a good evening. But thanks as always, Forrest, and I'm glad to see you
Yeah,
didn't get
sounds
taken
good.
out of the race at any point. Came close though
God
with Eric.
bless.
I'll ask him about that in a second.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, brown trousers
Alright, thanks,
moments
man.
fall involved. But yeah, thanks, Pixel, and congrats on the win.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Cheers. Bring in Eric. Eric, welcome back. You're becoming a regular.
Oh, thank you.
So tell me about your race today. A few things to talk about. Do you wanna just tell me how it went in general today?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the race. Um, I had a pretty good start, although I wasn't really up to pace in the beginning of the race. I jumped in the rig like 2 minutes before quali, and it usually takes a while for me to get into rhythm. So, but after like 20 minutes in, I felt I had like around the same pace as Pixel, and yeah, after that I started to maybe gain a little bit every lap, so I managed to close the gap.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the pit of situation was quite interesting. Did you put more fuel in than Forrest? Because you seemed to leave the pit lane a little bit later than he did. I think it was 5.5 seconds between the two of you, even though you came in pretty close together. And Forrest was obviously having a little bit of a debacle in the pit lane of his own. But just curious if there was anything there that would explain why you were a little bit further behind on the exit.
Yeah, so what I did like initially, like slowing down for the pits, I wasn't sure like where you're supposed to slow down, so I probably slowed down like way too early,
Ah,
uh, just to be safe. I didn't get a penalty or anything because I hadn't checked. I don't know where it is. Uh, yeah, I slowed down like way too early for the for the pit limiter.
right. Okay.
So
So just playing
and
it safe. Yeah.
then. Yeah, I was playing it safe, but then after that it was all good. I had no idea how much fuel Pixel put in, but I put in 35 liters, at like 2 liters, you know, like I'm a left at the finish. So yeah, I think that was fine.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe it's just a combination of various factors. You were a little bit more as conservative entering the pit lane. Pixel had a little bit of an issue finding his pit box in time. And then I guess you managed to shave off a good 5 seconds between the exit from the pit lane for the two of you and then the finish of the race. I think with a little bit more time, you might have been able to wear Pixel down, but he did a pretty good job. There was a moment though, I think, where you came into the beginning of Sector 3. There was a little bit of a moment where it looked like you were about to rear end Pixel, and you took the very gentlemanly move of spinning yourself out rather than making contact. Was that just missing the braking point, or were the tyres starting to give up by then?
I think the tires was fine. I think it was more of a driving mistake. I won't blame the tires for that one. I was just like you said, uh, uh, late on the brakes, and then I kind of I'm realized I'm about to hit Pixel, so I just went to the left and had a little spin. But yeah, but the problem for me in these cars is like I feel I can be like I'm a fast in them on like hot lapping, but as soon as it's like a car to car, I'm a bit, what do you say? I'm not
Cautious.
as I'm a consistent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
yeah, yeah.
you think
So
that's the dirty air having an impact on the aerodynamics?
maybe, and I'm not also usually driving these like high downforce cars, so it's also like everything is so fast in the turns, and I'm not really used to that when it comes to like paddling another car. So yeah, it's just I need so this I think this championship will be a good practice for me actually, as I'm not used to like LMPs or like stuff like this. So it's actually really fun.
Well, for someone who isn't used to high downforce cars like this, you certainly make it look very easy. So thank you for providing so much entertainment for the stream today. There were some good battles there, and hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I sure did. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Eric. I will look forward to seeing you in the remainder of the league, and I'll back and bring Andrew in. Okay, and last but not least, let's bring Andrew in. Mr. Andrew, how's it going?
Tragic race, mate.
Tell me about it then. Like, talk me through blow by blow what happened in your spin. Was it contact or just doing it yourself?
Nah, it's the worst thing is no one to blame but myself. That's always tragic. I just went too deep into the final corner, put the outside tyres on the curb and span out. I had another spin in the final sector toward the end of the race where I did a nice 50-50 skateboard grind on one of the curbs and span out there. So.
Oh no! Would you believe that I've been having the replay running while we've been in the interview, and I just put it back onto you, and just as you said you span, like that was your moment of it spinning in the replay.
Oh
So
yeah, I'm watching it now. Yeah,
couldn't have timed that better. So yeah, we did see that in 4K. It's yeah, just a little bit too much on the curbs. How easy are these cars unsettled by curbs? Looks like they are a little bit skittish in some places.
They're an absolute nightmare around this track. Very few corners would you ever want to be touching the curbs around here. We'll see how it's like at other tracks.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out at somewhere like Spa. Then there are a few moments where you want to be on the curb, but may want to avoid them in this case. So tell me, was I on the money when I said that your livery is inspired by the Sauber? What was it? Group C livery.
Yeah, you've got it spot on.
There we go. At first, I thought it was just white, and I realised that you'd actually put some effort into this one.
Yeah, it's the silver is definitely too light. It needs to be a slightly darker silver because it looks quite like the Brawn GP livery.
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah, I can see what you mean by that.
But yeah, it's meant to be the Sauber Mercedes,
A classic
C9, which was it was used in Le Mans this year on a GT3 Mercedes, so it made a return. It's a really easy one to make as well, so that was the primary reason.
You've certainly upped your game from just a black livery with a number painted on it, but yeah, good to see that livery out on the track. It's a very nice one. So tell me about the recovery. Like, you obviously pitted a lot earlier than everyone else did. Was that on purpose? Were your tyres a little bit kind of messed up from the spins?
I just wanted to undercut Viles.
Right.
Like, after I span out, it's strange because my pace was amazing the first 10 minutes. After I choked for the race start, caught up to Pixel, overtaking him, and about half a lap after I finally overtake Pixel and think I can try building a gap here, I spin out, and then the pace was gone after that. Nothing to do with tyres or car, just mental. Like, I lost confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, it's a good point, actually. The start of the race, you got really bogged down. Did you just time it wrong, or...?
I didn't do any race start practice, so you need to use a bit of clutch on these. So I just slammed it into first gear and absolutely bogged. Learn that for next time.
Yeah, it became a little bit of a mobile chicane at the beginning, but yeah, I was pleased to see there wasn't any kind of major incident in turn one. Fuji is quite a fast entry with so many cars. It can be a little interesting one, but
it was close.
Generally, it was okay.
I very almost annihilated Pixel. I was lucky not to. Because
Pixel's done well to avoid a few incidents this race.
Yeah. Pixel's back. It's official. I kept saying that he was washed in the other leagues, but he's not playing around anymore, is he?
No, he's worked up a good sweat today and earned himself a very solid P1. But
I don't doubt it.
It's going to be an interesting season. Any particular round you're looking forward to most?
Let me have a look at the calendar. Well, I've got hope I can challenge Pixel and Eric here. Unlike in the touring cars where Eric was just flat out just the best by far, I think I can fight. Sebring is going to be fun, assuming I bother to get the suspension set up correctly. Daytona should be cinema. Portimao. It's just non-stop hits this season. Apart from the finale at Yas Marina, which is a horrible track, everything is brilliant.
Yeah,
that being said, it's modern Yas Marina, which isn't as offensive, so yeah, really good calendar.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, actually. It should be really good. I always love it when Le Mans and Spa are in the lineup, so going to be a few good races here.
Yeah, I hope so.
Cool, well,
Maybe
I
I
mean,
choke
last
less
question
in
before I
them.
let you go is 60-minute format versus 2 20-minute races. What are your thoughts?
I prefer the 1 hour races.
And the tyre wear and the accelerated fuel rate, is that pretty much dialed in nicely? It seems to necessitate like at least one stop.
Yeah, especially around this track, I think it's a mandatory stop anyway. There's no chance. I mean, in the rules, it's mandatory, and it's also effectively mandatory because there's no way you can make it to the end on without fuel.
Yeah.
There's a very small fuel tank, but the funny thing about the fuel consumption is this mod has like ridiculously low fuel consumption by default. So we've bumped it up to effectively what it would be like in real life. So that's good. And the tyre wear has been boosted to a good amount as well.
Oh, that's good. It's interesting actually that the fuel rate is just actually almost normalising it rather than actually increasing it. But yeah, I think 60
and
minutes
it
quite
works
good format.
perfectly for the hour. Yeah, it's good. I like. It's a bit disappointing today, obviously, because I choked. So I was hot lapping for 45 minutes, but that's on me.
Still, podium at the end of it, so can't be all bad.
Yeah, I managed to rescue that. Even so, it was a really bad performance. I would have lost the podium if Files didn't have issues with some of the back markers at the end.
Yeah, there was a few, I think, blue flag issues in the race. Might have to send out some kind of reminders on how to deal with that appropriately. But
I'll try and find you a good tutorial on YouTube.
Yeah, that'd be great, Andrew. Thank you. Lovely. Well, thanks very much, Andrew. Good to see you in the commentary box once again, and I look forward to seeing how things pan out for you and your team as the league progresses. I think it's going to be another strong finish for your team with Binding.
He's got to put some work in. I think we'll be in third place after round one.
Well, he was
We're
given an Akshik a run for his money, and he's managed to best him in the end, I think. So.
No, he finished behind him.
Oh, sorry, yes, you're right.
Brutally taken out.
Yeah, the replay I'm looking at has got the leaderboard, so that threw me off. But yes, no, well, we'll see how it goes. It's early days.
Yeah, I just need to sow some dissent between Eric and Pixel, get them to wipe each other out, and I'll be good.
But good luck with that advanced strategy, and we'll see how things play out.
Yeah, see you.
All right, cheers, Andrew. Thanks. Okay, well that brings the stream to an end, guys. Thank you all for being part of the chat and being on the racetrack, and a big thanks to Viles and Red, of course, and the other mods for doing so much work to organise the leagues and pull everything together. And a shout out to Andrew as well, who I think helped out with track selection and so on. And yeah, looking forward to the remainder of the league. I shall bid you all a good evening and catch you on the next round, which is next weekend. See you later. See you on the next round, which is next weekend.